Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It is terrible, the weather down in some parts of the country. We've got Kier Starmer currently in Downing Street. I said to one of his, a former advisor to Labour, shall we say, wouldn't it be a good look if the Prime Minister went out and about to actually see some of the damage that's been done by Storm Bert and go down and sort of give a bit of comfort to people in Wales. Apparently he doesn't think that's as important as having a summit in Downing Street.
Well, I'd say tackling spiking is an important thing to do. It's a horrible thing. I've got teenage kids and we talk about the risks that they might face of spiking if they go out to festivals or bars and things like that. But yes, also the Prime Minister should get out and about and see the impact of flooding on people. I was flooded out of my home a few years ago and I know how awful it is, really horrible.
Yeah, me
so,
too.
yes, get out there and go and see.
Yeah, fine. I mean, the thing about the spiking law is it's already against the law to spike somebody's drink, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Why does it have to be a special law made in order to stop people from doing it? And people who do it are horrible, ghastly, criminal individuals anyway. So they're not likely to obey and go, oh, suddenly there's a new anti-spiking law, better not do it.
Well, as you say, we did legislate to crack down on spiking while we were in government just at the end of last year. And we're working with the hospitality sector as well on preventing it. So we'll see whether the Labour government has got any ideas about how they're going to go further than that. I should think they're also going to have some pretty tough conversations with the hospitality sector as they go about the impact of their budget on the sector, because they've been telling me how hard it's going to be for pubs, particularly as a result of Labour's taxes.
Well, I don't think there's anyone in any sector of business right now who's happy with the Labour budget, is there? I mean, we've got the CBI this morning saying that tax rises like this must never again be done to business. A poll of business leaders has shown that 62% say they're going to cut back on their hiring plans. Half said they'll be forced to lay people off. 46% looking to delay pay rises. So if they want to create growth, they're going a funny way about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, they talked about growth in the run-up to the election, but now they're doing the exact opposite. As a result of the budget, the growth forecasts have been revised down. And, yeah, I speak to lots of businesses in my constituency, some local, some really big businesses, and they are just distraught about the budget. They just think, is it the Chancellor doesn't understand businesses or does she hate them? She just doesn't get it. The tax rises that she's put in place are going to make it really, really hard. And here I are as Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, where on the one hand Labour are saying they want to get people into work, but on the other hand their budget is actually anti-jobs. And as a result of it, we saw the OBR forecast 50,000 fewer jobs. So here we've got Labour saying one thing before they were elected and then doing the opposite in government. Well,
they're also saying they want to get people back to work. They're going to issue all sorts of instructions about getting the workless, into jobs. But it's basically difficult because there aren't going to be jobs being offered, according to private companies. But, I mean, do they mean getting a bigger sort of public sector? Do they mean they want to give people more jobs to get Britain working in the public sector? Because they seem to care more about the public sector than they do about the private sector.
Yeah, well, we should see more detail tomorrow when the government sets out their statement on this. If it is just to get people more jobs in the public sector, well, I would be concerned about seeing that expanding further. Clearly, jobs in the public sector are important. We need people working in our NHS as doctors and nurses and all those things. But actually really, really important to our economy is growth of the private sector and increased productivity. So we need to see those opportunities for people in the private sector. We did know that there was a growing problem since the pandemic of people not being in work because of ill health. We're in government working really hard on reforms on that, more support, reforms to the fit notes, which is where doctors are often signing people off sick, trying to make sure that people actually weren't just consigned to being on benefits, but actually given the support to be in work and getting the incentives right for people to work. All those things are really important. I'm not confident that we're going to see the right decisions from the government, but we'll find out more tomorrow.
Well, I speak to a doctor, one particular doctor, quite regularly up in Doncaster, and he's told me on the air that he quite often signs people off work sick who send him an email. He doesn't even see them. He just signs them off. And I said, don't you think that's a bit irresponsible? And he went, no, not really. If they feel anxious or they don't want to go to work, it's my job to sign them off. I mean, that's surely wrong.
So this was something that I was working on reforms when I was a health minister, working with our Secretary of State for Work and Pensions at the time, Mel Stride. We worked together on this. And because the problem is that more than 90% of people, when they get a fit note from the doctor, that note says not fit to do any work at all. Well, actually, for some people, they might be able to continue doing some work, and it might actually be helpful. We know, for instance, if you're struggling with your mental health, just being sent home to be off sick isn't necessarily the right answer for you. So what we were doing was working on reforms to that, so that instead of just being signed off sick, people would actually be given support to get into work or to stay in work, for that to be better for individuals and also better for our society.
I've got this note from Gav in Cornwall. He says, Mike, you said two-tier Kier doesn't want to ever come out of Downing Street. He does, but only to take another private jet trip abroad and speak to everyone in foreign countries. He will not face up to people in his own country. There's a petition right now currently doing the rounds online. 1.9 million people and rising have signed it. It's calling for an election. I know that there's no constitutional pathway for that to be the case, but, I mean, if you were Prime Minister and you'd been in for 5 months and you had nearly 2 million people saying they wanted to call an election, it's not a great sign, is it?
Well, yeah, I think it's a big problem for the new government, for Kier Starmer. And what I'm hearing from people, including people who actually voted for them, is that they feel they voted for one thing and have got another. So the government said, for instance, that they were going to be pro-growth, that they weren't going to put up taxes on working people, they weren't going to increase national insurance. They've done the opposite in government. Straight away, they've gone and put up taxes, they've gone and put up national insurance, they've gone and scrapped the winter fuel payment for 10 million pensioners. None of those were things they said that they were going to do before the election. People voted on a manifesto which was completely different from what we're seeing in government. You just can't trust them.
Here's one from Tom who says, morning Mike, I blame Rishi Sunak for the position we are in. If he had called the election for about now, Labour would probably still have won, but with a much reduced majority or even a minority. Do you think that's possible?
I wouldn't say that, and I do understand that people, felt it was time for an election before when we had it. I think the thing that is so bad at the moment is that Labour said one thing in the run-up to that election, so people voted for something different from what they're getting, and it's a result of the new government's political choices, the choices they've made, for instance, to give a big pay rise to public sector unions like train drivers without expecting any reforms or increase in productivity, their energy company that they're spending money on, so billions of pounds that they're spending, and on the other hand, putting up taxes, billions of people, and that's the wrong way to go about it. We would have done something different, and it's not what people voted for. Would
you favour some kind of legally binding manifesto agreement, so whereby if you had a manifesto which you completely ignored and just completely then reinvented when you got in, there would be some kind of sanction for that?
Actually, what I think is really important is the kind of conversations that we're having today, which is actually holding them to account on it and showing them up and saying, look, you said one thing, you're doing another, and actually when the election comes, people will vote accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, a lot of people ask me that question. But listen, Helen, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Helen Whatley, their MP, Shadow Minister for Work and Pensions in Westminster.